Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. I'm your host, Victor Rigoli, and I have on the podcast today another photographer, Steve Arnold. Steve, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Victor.
Yeah, it's great. I'm going to share a little bit about your bio here. You live in the Middle Georgia area and you photograph mostly landscapes. And I was impressed with how you said this, whether it's trees, mountain views, seascapes, waterfalls, or nearly any type of water, which we're going to show some of that here shortly, folks. You love to shoot completely out in nature, but you do incorporate things like roads, bridges, piers, paths, and fences into your photography. Sunrises and sunsets are a great time for Steve, but he also loves a cloudy day for photography. And I think we've talked a little bit about that before.
Yeah.
When time permits, you do like to go jump in the car and drive around in the back roads of Georgia and see what's out there. And every now and then you'll find a jewel. You'll find something that's really special or unique. So that's really cool. But yeah, so Steve, how long have you been a photographer, and what got you started in that?
It took me a while to call myself a photographer.
Okay.
Maybe I felt like I wasn't sort of worthy of that distinction. I think I've always had an eye for something interesting or beautiful, and that goes back many, many years. I do know that when I travel, I take pictures, and
Right.
Anything that interests me. So I will be behind the group, usually shooting something while everybody's moving on.
Gotcha.
And so around the time I retired 5 years ago, and I had told my wife that that when I retired, I was going to begin taking meandering road trips, and because I always want to know what where that road goes, or
Right.
where that.
Right.
I,
The adventure.
I love maps.
Okay.
So I'll look at something on a map and think, wow, I wonder what's there. So in 2010, I got a DSLR camera, and before then, I was using just sort of your old point and shoot cameras.
Right.
I got the DSLR and began to learn a little bit about depth of field, and started shooting people, my grandchildren, my family members, and when I retired, I was still shooting, and I had a bunch of pictures from my travels. And just on a random day, I decided I'm going to start putting images on Instagram. I didn't really know what it was, and
Right. Right.
and kind of my tech background always sort of leads me to explore new platforms just to understand them.
Right.
So I started sharing on Instagram, and slowly people began to follow me who inspired me. And before I knew it, I wanted to do what they were doing. I wanted to be able to shoot long exposure. I wanted to get better images. For instance, if you go out and shoot in the sun, you're going to get harsh light. It's just not going to look as good.
Right.
So I began to learn some of these things. In 21, I just saw somebody offered a fall photography tour in North Carolina, and I signed up and I went. And to tell you the truth, I was really I was kind of afraid because it was just so far out of my box,
Right. Right. That comfort zone box. Yeah.
And so I had no idea what to expect. The morning of that shoot, I was in Asheville, and while I was there, I thought, well, I'm going to look and see maybe a good sunrise spot. I wasn't meeting the guy till that afternoon. So I went up to the Blue Ridge Parkway, had never done that before. I'm up there in the dark because I'm wanting to shoot sunrise. I'm really, again, I don't know if there are axe murderers up there or what. It's kind of funny when I think about it now.
Yeah.
But I found the spot I was looking for, and really witnessed an amazing sunrise. And that
You're hooked. Yeah.
that really kind of, I mean, I was already ready. I was already hooked, but that was really something special. I went out with the guy later. I learned so much. And from there, I mean, that brings me to this point today.
Okay. So that's not very long, really, when you think about it.
No, it's not.
Yeah, yeah. So our stories are kind of similar to a certain degree, and we've talked a little bit about this, I think. And IT background, for
Yeah,
years, and I think we had even talked about how we were in IT before it was called IT.
right,
So it was a
right,
long time
right,
ago, and
right.
retired recently. I retired in May of 22, and I took up painting in January this month, actually 6 years ago. So yeah, we have some similar backgrounds, and I love that. You're pretty much self-taught guy here, and I can sense that you're constantly learning
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
exploring different things. Um, and looking at your bio and everything, and it talked about you being more of a landscape kind of photographer. I'm more of a landscape painter,
Yeah.
and I use oil paints and everything. That's my medium. Yours is a camera and everything. And just some questions here about photography and where you see photography going in the future, especially with technology and the use of AI. And how do you think or feel, speaking just for yourself, how AI may or may not play a role in photography currently today and in the future?
Well, so when we shoot, one thing that I didn't understand until I really began to do landscape photography was the editing process. I used to, if you ever notice when you see people's pictures, they'll shoot all these pictures, and things will be a little off, like
Right.
the horizon won't be straight or whatever, and they just you shoot them, you share them, and that's how they are. Well, once I really got into it, I started realizing I need to make some corrections. I need to straighten things out or fix things, and then I didn't understand until I really got into Lightroom and Photoshop that that certain blemish that really is nothing but a distraction could be removed.
Right.
So I began to, and that makes a difference too. You want to take those things out that
Right.
that draw people's eyes, and then they're not really seeing the image you're trying to show them. So you as a painter don't have that problem, right?
Yeah. Right.
Um, so when I think of I think when you use AI in that sense, I think it's nice.
Right.
If if there's a sign um, that you want to take out, and I think even that statement is very controversial because some people say it should be natural. Well, we can discuss that, but I think when it's used properly, I'll give you another example. I have friends who have pictures, like the family went on a trip and they had a picture, and there's a distraction in the picture,
Mm-hmm.
uh, somebody or a thing or whatever. And I've had friends say, "Hey, can you take this out of the picture?" And I love that, and I do it for
Yeah.
myself. I was editing my grandson's pictures just last night, and it's nice that you can use AI to remove some of those things that become distractions.
Right. Right.
Now, obviously, we know that there's so many more things that can be done with AI, and that part of it, I'm not a fan of,
Yeah.
um, and I know it's already gotten out of hand.
Yeah. 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 I think it has its purpose. We have to be careful with it. Um, and I'm quick to identify where somebody may send me a photo and they say, "Oh, I think this would make a great painting." And I look at it and I said, "Well, that was AI generated,"
Right.
because AI is not perfect.
It's
Uh,
obvious. So
I mean, especially there's people that post things out there and they do barns, and it's like a barn is not constructed that way, you know. And there's certain things that really stand out that catches my eye, and I said, well, this was all AI generated.
yeah,
So, and then too, sometimes there's some Facebook groups that I'm part of that they provide reference photos for artists to use in creating a painting. But you have to be careful with those too, because I've noticed some things how they may have used AI to do some major adjustments, and it's like, yeah, I'm not sure if that's a legitimate photo or not. So,
Right.
but yeah, I think it has its purpose, but we all have to be careful. And I use my cell phone. I have a a Nikon camera that I use from time to time, but sometimes um, my cell phone, my Android, takes better photos.
Oh,
But
so
the one
yeah.
thing about it is that I can cut something out that I don't like. If somebody photobombed and everything, I can highlight
Yeah.
that, take them out, and
Right.
everything. And sometimes it leaves it a little bit of blurry and everything, but I like it because if I take a photo with it and I have it on my phone, I can use that technology to cut certain things out or move certain things around, which is great. And so let's talk a little bit about you going out and you're going to take some photos. And it's like this with artists when we go out and do plein air painting. This vast array of things that are out there. How do you narrow that down? What catches your eye? And you said, I've got to crop this mentally and then also in your photo to say, this is what I'm trying to capture here. Because you've got so much out there. Um, what what kind of inspires you to say, hey, I want to catch this certain aspect? Is it a light? Is it maybe a bridge? Well, so what kind of speaks to you when you're out there to say, hey, I've got to capture that in a landscape photo?
So
Long question there, but
it is. Well, I mean, it's a great question, really. And I think about that. As you know, I go out and shoot cypress trees.
right,
So I'm out in a boat. I'm moving constantly, and I'm looking at trees. A long row of trees. But usually there's something, and I'm just using that as an example because it could be any other place.
right, right,
Usually there's something that captures my eye that says I am the central point of this scene. And I really can't define that,
yeah,
uh, but it's kind of like when you're say when you're let's say in a classroom setting and you're learning something. Sometimes you have this, hopefully, this ability to decide what's the important part of this lesson that we just learned. On what do I need to focus? Because
right,
obviously, if you focus on everything, you're not going to probably learn anything.
right, right,
So when I'm out, say again in a boat, and I'm looking at these cypress trees, something just catches my eye, and that's the central point. So if you look at my cypress images, you'll see symmetry, or an attempt at symmetry at least. It's because something caught my eye and said, I'm the focal point. And then everything around it supports that focus. So that's really, and I can't tell you what makes me do that, what makes me think that way. It just comes naturally to me. I mean, I could be wrong too. I can take plenty of pictures where I focus on something, and then when I go back and look at it, it's not very good.
right, right.
But I think I'm trying to find a focus, and my brain usually catches something that interests me as the central point.
Right, right. I think it's kind of like that with artists because as a painter, we can see a photo and there's certain things we see that we want to be the focal point,
Right.
right? And so with painting landscape, there's certain compositions that you come up with to try to direct the viewer's eye to that focal point. And as a painter, we try not to have that focal point right in the middle of the canvas. Okay. Usually it's like, you divide things up into thirds or whatever, and it's somewhere around, one of those little boxes. And
Right.
looking at some of your photography, I think you kind of do that too, because there's something we're going to show here in a minute. And I don't know if it was a sunrise or sunset, but it was kind of off to the right a little bit, so you just didn't focus right into that. You took in the whole area, but then things, shapes, and trees and mountains kind of lead the viewer's eye to that particular thing that you're focusing on,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. Um,
And,
so
and
it,
I do admit that I have heard and read about the rule of thirds. Um, and sometimes I just don't really care about the
yeah,
rules.
th-
It's more about
they're made to be broken, right? Yeah, just think
what
outside the box, try something
what
different. Yeah.
what is I hate to say speaking to me, that sounds so weird, but
Oh,
what is catching my attention?
yes.
And I will say again, I'm a symmetry guy,
Okay.
and I mean I love things lined up. I love a bridge, I love a road, so, and a lot of times if I'm putting everything right in the middle, that is not according to the artistic rules,
Right.
but I like it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes it makes sense to do that. I mean, yeah, they have these rules, and I see a lot too. Artists will say that are been out there painting. Sometimes you have to break the rules,
right.
and you know. Now, how do you sell your work? I know that you have created some calendars. In fact, I have one of your calendars and everything, and we have that up in our home. And I look at it pretty much every day to see what's on the calendar for today and this week, and a beautiful calendar. And those are a lot of the cypress trees and things of that nature. Do you create and produce other calendars that are available for folks?
So yes, well, yes and no.
Yes or no? Okay, good answer.
A couple of years ago, my wife had asked me to do a calendar, so I made a calendar for her, and we just printed one, and she has that. And then the following year, so that would be last year before last, or
Okay,
since we're at the beginning of the year,
right, right.
um, it occurred to me to make some calendars, and I did. I made a few, and I put something out, and I had a really big response, so I ordered more. Um, at the same time, on my website, they had a built-in calendar creation process. So I set that up, and I had a few people buy a couple of calendars that way.
Okay, okay.
But and then this past year, I created some more. And I don't know. I think you and I had this discussion not too long ago. I'm not so convinced that people are interested in my calendar being in their in their house.
Right.
So you know, down the road, will I create calendars? I don't know, because
Don't know. Yeah.
the thing about calendars, you like a lot of stuff that I'm selling now. I'm selling in art shows and fairs and whatnot. Calendars, you've got to sell sort of online, I guess, or you have to have people wanting those, and or even to give calendars away. I'm not, like I told you, I'm not sure that if I gave someone my calendar that they would really want it. So,
Right.
Right. I don't know that I mean, yes, I can create them, and I probably will create a few, but I don't know if I'll make that a big thing or not.
Yeah. I've bought calendars from other artists, at least two, maybe three, because I follow them and I like their work and everything. And one's an artist, and one is I think she's kind of an amateur photographer that she could. And she's let me paint a couple of her photos, for use as photo references and what have you. So I felt, hey, I want to support her, and
Yeah.
and everything, and I think it's good. But selling calendars is kind of it's timing too. In the fall, around November, December, I'm buying the calendar for the new year, because if if you go to a arts fair or something and you've got a calendar and it's midway through the year, nobody's going to buy a 2026 calendar in June. There's only 6 more months left.
Right.
But they may buy the 27 one in October, November, because, hey, I'm getting it for the new year. Do you do prints as well of your work?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
Like I said, I started, and I'll just back up a little bit. When I first started doing all of this, I enjoy exploring and I enjoy taking pictures, and that's all this began as. It was nothing more than that. It was just I have time to do it now in my retirement. I love to travel, and so I was in North Carolina coming home one day, and I ran. It was in November, so it was kind of the sort of late in fall, a little bit late, and I saw these trees, so I went back and I shot them, and I shared them on Instagram, and someone contacted me and said she was interested in buying a print. Well, I'd never had a print made. I knew nothing about that, so I had to investigate having prints made and companies to use and whatnot. So I did, and I made the print for her. She said she loved it. It was actually a canvas, and that sort of started something for me. So yes, I do. And then I started going to these shows. So like right now, up here where I am, I have just like my sister-in-law is an artist, and she has her studio that is full of all kinds of stuff.
Right.
That's basically what I have now, because when I go to these shows, I have 30 prints up. So you gotta have a lot.
You do.
If you want a good show.
A good body of your work. Yeah,
right.
When
right.
you go to these places. Yeah. So do you print them yourself, or have somebody local print those?
I
print on demand service.
Well, it's not print on demand, but I do use. Well, maybe it is, but I do use companies to do it. I've thought about buying a printer. But I'm an IT guy, and I know what happens to printers.
Oh yeah,
they don't always work, and
right.
I don't want to have to maintain one.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I'm not printing that much where I don't want ink jets to get clogged or anything like that. So I think it's worth it to me to send my stuff out. I've used
professional.
Yeah. I use a couple companies, and I can usually get a print back in a couple of days. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah. So you send them off via online through the internet?
Yeah.
Or?
You go online and you order your prints,
okay.
And usually in 3 or 4 days, I've got them in the mail.
Yeah. We'll talk offline, because I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit about that. But it's kind of exploring some of that. Now, in you have those mats with those prints?
So I do my own matting.
Okay.
At first, again, I sort of developed my style, and I do like things to be orderly and sort of clean looking. So I had a couple of things matted, but that's expensive to pay a company to make mats, and the aspect ratio that I use is not standard. And I guess it's just my camera. So, but I don't want to crop these images. So because of that, I need a sort of a custom sized mat. So I went to the store, and I talked to the guy about doing my own mats, and he told me what I needed to do. So I bought a mat cutter, and so now I can buy a sheet of mat board for, I don't know, $12, $13 maybe. And most of my prints that I do in shows, they're 11 by 14s, but I mat them at 16 by 20. So I can get 4 mats out of
one sheet,
$12 sheet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
that's great.
It makes it worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And this is all interesting because, there's various artists and photographers that watch this podcast and share it, because people are always looking at, is it best for me? Because I considered getting a printer, and printing stuff out. But I love what you said, and thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I'm an IT guy, and I know how long they last, and I know for the majority of the time it's probably going to sit idle. And you're right. I don't want the ink to start gunking up and that kind of thing and have problems. And I may not be the best at maybe working with the photo and getting it printed out. I'd rather use a company or professional, either locally or through the internet, to do that for me. But I like your idea and what you're doing with mats and everything. And I hadn't thought about that because I'm trying to maybe explore a little bit more about doing prints of my work, because as an artist, we can create an original piece of art that might be in acrylic or oil paint. And the good thing about doing prints is you can sell them a whole lot cheaper
Right.
than the original piece of four, five, six, seven, $1,000. But yet you can do prints of that and maybe make a few bucks off of it. And
Yeah.
so the more prints you make, yeah, the more money, and you still have the original piece of art that
Yeah.
you can use. You could sell it if you wanted to, but you still have it. But I like that. So we've talked a little bit at lunch and at a special meeting we were at a week or so ago, and we talked about shows and
Mhm.
going to shows. So talk a little bit about and share what your experience has been as a photographer and what all's involved with that of going to a show and selling your work, because you'll have some stuff that are framed, I would assume, and so you've got to have the right panels and booth to support,
Yeah.
the weight of a framed and matted print. So how's your experience been with going to these shows and selling art there?
Well, I'll share my history of that real quick.
Okay.
I was invited a couple of years ago to a what was called a pop-up show. It was actually at a thrift store, but they were having an sort of an artisan show on a certain day. So, and it's a friend who has said some nice things about my photography. So I was happy to be invited and honored. And so I went over and I saw the location and I realized I've got to put these up on something, you know.
Right.
And at the time, I wasn't really framing anything. I had a couple of things in frames. So I decided at the last minute. I'm a woodworker. I do build things all the time. So I decided to build a stand, and I just I just had to think about what it should be and how it should work. And so I built two stands that had a sort of a tabletop in the front and then a sort of a stand in the back. And I used those in that show, and plus a couple of easels. And before I go back to how I developed from there, that show I had no idea, because again I didn't know. I was a picture taker. I didn't look at myself as an artist,
Right. Right.
and I didn't know if anybody would want to buy my stuff. So I had these pictures up, and people started coming through. The thing I loved the most about that day was just talking about the art, and the people who talked to me in the comments they made. It helped me feel like maybe I've got something that has some value.
Right.
So at some point during the day, a young girl, probably 10 or 12 years old, looked at a picture, came back, brought her dad, and said she wanted this picture. So he bought it. And that was the only thing I sold that day. But it meant so much that I had something that this young girl wanted to put in her room.
Right. Right.
So that was
Spoke to her in some way, and
yeah.
Has
So
it?
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so after that, I went to another art event. No, I joined the Middle Georgia Art Association,
Mm-hmm.
and I committed to going to the Mulberry Street
Arts and crafts thing. Yeah.
And so I had to buy a tent. I bought a tent, and I used my setup, and I also borrowed some grids. And again, the thing about the show was it was just I had such a good time talking to people, and people were interested. They had a lot of questions, and
Right.
and I did sell some, and I was encouraged to keep doing it.
Right.
From there, I sort of added other pieces of my stands of my art display
Okay.
to my tent. And then another artist told me that I should paint my display, and so I did that. And I'm pretty happy. Actually, my first tent was black, and then I learned that a lot of festivals don't want black tents, so I bought a
Right.
white tent.
Right. Right.
So it was a process.
Oh
So now I
yeah.
have a white tent that is totally built out. It's I built the stands. I built them so that they can be portable. It's wood, um, which takes a long time to put it together and take it apart. But I can transport it without needing a big huge trailer.
Right. Right.
So it's been a process, but it works, and I'm
Yeah.
happy with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that because you've learned a lot through trial and error and just going to places and seeing what works, what doesn't work, and I like that it's the beauty of networking with people and meeting people and coming up and asking you questions about your work and people purchasing it and that kind of thing, which is great. Um, do you sell a lot online through social media or your webpage?
I've had a few requests through
Okay.
social media.
Okay.
I since I did start a web page, and I've
Okay.
sold some through there. Uh, Art's a funny thing, and I will say from my shows, even that very first show, I had a lady contact me and order a print,
Hmm.
and so I have had prints ordered after the fact. I did learn something when I first started this, and it was through the website company, and it was one of the webinars they had. And what the guy said, he said, the thing about art is you're building a relationship with people. This is
Right.
not, you're not selling a vacuum cleaner or a set of knives.
Right.
You're building a relationship that hopefully will last over time. So, and I think that's true. I think at some point, if you continue to produce art, I think people, they consider you an artist. I think they maybe even trust your work, and maybe they appreciate it to the point that if they wanted something special, they would come to you.
Right.
So but none of that really matters to me. I mean, I'm sitting in this room. I've got all these prints. I've got a ton of framed prints right now, and I need to do something. If something were to happen to me, my poor wife would have to do something with all this stuff. But but selling this stuff is not that important to me. Don't get me wrong, I would love this hobby to pay for itself,
Right. Right.
but it's just the love of the experience,
Yeah.
and that's what keeps me going. It's not so much about selling anything.
Right. Sounds like connections with people and connecting with
Yeah,
people and as relationships with people. And I think you hit it there. And artists out there that are listening and others is that you building that relationship with either a client or potential client.
yeah,
And because as artists and photographers and people, um, a lot are introverts, and it's hard to talk about yourself and put yourself out there. But you have to do that. And
right,
so if you go to like the Mulberry Streets Arts and Crafts, or you go to any other event, even showing your work at a gallery, you have to engage with people.
yeah,
You have to walk up and talk. You see them looking at a print or a photo or uh, painting that you created. You have to talk to them about
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
see you like this piece. Tell me why. What would you put it in your living room or your bedroom? Does it remind you of some place that you visited? In the
yeah,
past, those kind of things, and I think it's key that as artists and photographers and creatives, we have to do that. We have to put ourselves out there and engage with our
yeah,
potential audience and
yeah.
clients. Yeah, it's key. What do you find the most challenging about being a photographer?
Um, Probably. I live in middle Georgia, as you do,
All right.
and I love to shoot snow and mountains
There's your challenge right there, man.
and, and oceans. And I've been looking for those things around here, and I'm not
Ain't
finding
gonna
them.
happen. we gotta get together in the car and go somewhere, Stephen, and take
We
pictures because I
we
like to
do.
paint those things too. The ocean, some snow, some mountains, but we're 3 hours away,
Yeah.
roughly.
And I do go. I will go. I was talking to a friend yesterday. Um, I will go to the coast. I will make it a day trip even,
Yeah.
which involves leaving home at, well, it depends on the time of year.
Right.
Leaving home at 3. If the sunrise is 7, I can leave home at 3. I get to the beach at 6, and then set up in the dark, and then I can, hopefully catch a beautiful sunrise.
Right. Right.
And then I come home. So I will do that, or I can go, to the pond that I've talked about, which is 2 hours away. Now that, in that case, I have to take a kayak, and it's a whole thing.
Right.
But yeah, I can do those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I need to do more of that. My in-laws live in Jessup, Georgia, which is right off of
Okay.
341 going down toward Brunswick and that kind of thing. If you've taken the back roads to St. Simon's or Jekyll, you've been through.
Yeah.
You blink a couple times and you're through,
Yeah, I'm
But
familiar with Jessup.
yeah, and my in-laws, my father-in-law's mother had a house on the same property as my in-laws. Okay, so my wife's granny had a house, and she passed away many years ago, and so it just kind of sits up there empty. And we try to maintain it. And I talked to my mother-in-law. Actually, it was my youngest son's idea. He said, "Dad, you ought to put a little studio up there in Granny's house." Because I love my in-laws and I love socializing and everything, but sometimes I get bored. I have ADD or ADHD. I haven't been diagnosed, but I know it's true, and I get fidgety, and I can't sit still very long. And he had that idea, so I reached out to my mother-in-law. And she said, "You can do whatever you want to." I said, "Okay." So I got me some gallery white paint, and I went down there and painted one of the bedrooms. I built an easel. I have a setup, and what I call it is Studio South. That's my Studio
Okay.
South. Okay,
Okay.
and
That's
I need to get back down there, especially in the spring, um, because I'm only 45 minutes to Brunswick. Say another hour or around an hour to get to Jekyll or to St. Simon's. So I can go down there, have a place to stay, get up, drive down, spend the whole day painting or photographing or whatever, and then come back and paint and
yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So, but my wife and I, we love the coast. I'm a beach person, and so we love to go down to Jekyll and St. Simon's. And with her work, she still works, and they do a couple conferences or conventions a year down on Jekyll, and so I always tag along. And I have taken my paints and stuff, but I always like to get out and just explore and take pictures.
Yeah.
And I've had to delete a lot of pictures because I thought it might make a good painting, but no, the lighting's not good or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just the joy of being out in nature like
Yes.
that, and I'm sure you experience that as well.
Yeah.
Getting out.
The
Yeah.
journey is a big part of it. Again, I
Exactly.
I love road trips. Now,
Yeah.
my wife doesn't love them like I do, but I really do. So the idea of going to the coast, it doesn't bother me at all. The only thing that holds me back a little bit lately, life gets busy,
Oh,
and
most
and
definitely.
and, and
Yeah.
the question is, do I want to? Because even if I leave at 3 in the morning, that's a whole day.
Right.
By the time I get back, my days, I'm pretty much done.
Yeah.
So I've gotten up early and all
Right.
that. So that's the main thing. But no, I've gone plenty of places, and it's just, I tell people that photography is like fishing. How many times do you go fishing, you come back with nothing, or hunting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. I can go out.
I love that comparison. That is so true. I hadn't thought about that before, but that
Yeah.
is so true.
Yeah. So So no, I think it's great to get out and explore. Now I do you asked about challenges. Another challenge when I do go out is, so let's say I decide I want to go to the coast or to the pond. Well, the first thing I do is I look at when I'm available to go, and then I look at the weather.
Right.
Now, and way too often on the days I'm available to go, I look at the weather and the forecast is bright sun every day. And well, that's not going to work for during the day. Now, if I can spend the night or um, get there, before daylight, then I can maybe catch sunrise. And even if there's no sunrise, let's say I go to the pond, even if there's no sunrise, there is a period of time when the sun is when the light is coming up, that I might get some really nice pictures
Right.
before the harsh light comes.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
or I can plan a trip to go and spend the night, and then I can do the same in the evening as well.
Right.
But yeah, the conditions play a big part in getting good shots.
Yeah. Hey, anytime you want a travel companion and you want to go down to the coast of Georgia, hit me up. I'll tag
Well,
along with you and take some pictures because I love a good sunrise and a good sunset. I
let, let,
really do.
let's
Yeah.
let's
We
let's
need to
plan
plan
on it.
on that. Yeah, most
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah.
Because leaving at 3 o'clock is not a problem with me because sometimes I wake up at 3 o'clock and I'm ready to go.
It's
The
the old
weird
man
thing,
syndrome.
yeah. The thing about it, I thought, well, the whole time I was working, I had to have an alarm, and I would the last couple years or so. Well, COVID hit, and in March of 2020, they sent us all home. So I worked from home for over 2 years because of COVID. Okay, and I would roll out of the bed at 7, jump in the shower, get something to eat, and I'd start work at 7:30. But I had an alarm to wake me up. And then the weekend come around, I was looking forward to sleeping in, and I thought, hey, I get to retire. I could sleep late. I'm up at 4 o'clock,
Right. Right.
4:30, 5. I mean, it's just like you wake up and it's like, okay, I guess
Yeah.
I've had enough sleep. Let's go.
Right.
So
Right.
that wouldn't be a problem for me to get up and
That's good to
ride down.
know,
Yeah, it's not a
because
problem at all.
yeah, sometimes I would love to
And I
not
don't mind driving too because I got
go
a
out there.
I got a forerunner, forerunner, and we can load it up and hit the road. So
Sounds
yeah,
good.
I'm ready. Yeah, I want to show some of your work.
Okay.
I'm going to pull that in. We've been talking over 40 minutes here, and so folks, I want to show some of Steve's work here, and let's talk a little bit about this one, where it's at, what time of day it was, what caught your eye, those kind of things.
So that is from the pond at George L. Smith State Park.
Okay, where's that located at, Steve?
It is near Statesboro, Georgia.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
I was going to pull that up here so I can
Okay.
have a better view of it.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, when I first got started in this, like I told you, I was a little bit realizing, wow, I've got to go some far distances to get some of these pictures. And hold on, let me put that over here. And then I learned about this place, and I was just so happy. I went there in 21 for fall pictures. It was actually late in November, mid-November, which is really late for that place because usually the color is gone. So the cypress trees, they start turning in October, and you never know. They may be gone at the very beginning of November,
Right.
or they may last for a couple of weeks into November. So this was taken. I'll tell you, it was in November the 7th. I had taken a fall road trip with a buddy, and we went sort of around the southeast. We went all the way up to West Virginia, and we came back and we went to the pond at the very end of October, and everything was yellow, which I really loved. It was really beautiful, but I thought, well, I'm going to wait and go back again. Hopefully, when the colors have changed. I didn't quite get like blazing red, but
Right.
I like the variegated color. This was, I went out in the morning. We were hoping for a foggy morning, which we didn't exactly get, but we did get that odd fog on the water in some
Yeah,
spots.
I noticed that.
Yeah, and that's the first time I've actually seen it that way. It was only on the water; it was not even above the water. So when the sun came up, so there's a window of time. Well, a couple of things. One thing you see there is the roots of that tree are really exposed of
Hmm.
those trees. Typically, if you look at them, the dark section toward the top of the roots, and
Right.
there's a light line at the very top of the dark section. That's usually where the water is, and that was probably 4 or 5 feet. So the water was probably 4 or 5 feet low,
Wow.
but it made something really interesting.
It is. It
And
does. Yeah.
so I had shot the night before, but again, when the sun is shining, I don't really get anything I like. It's just too
Yeah.
harsh. So
Right.
and I don't remember getting anything I liked when the sun went down. But the next morning, I caught this shot, and this is one that sort of breaks even my rules because I do like some sort of symmetry, and this one doesn't really have that. But there was something about it that just caught my eye, and I think it's that faded look
Uh
that's
huh.
very different. I don't think I have any shots. It almost looks retro somehow to me.
Okay. I love the colors in it. I can see. Of course, I don't have my glasses on, so and sometimes that's a good thing because it kind of blurs and you can see things a little differently. But I see some oranges, some yellows, a little bit of green in there
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. All right. This is the one I think I was referring to earlier. I don't know if that's a sunrise or sunset there over on the right side and everything. And I love how the shape of the mountain just kind of leads your eye down to that white and yellow light there, right above some hills in the distance there. And you've got in the foreground, you've got the reflection on the water, and then you've got looks like some grass, kind of marsh looking type grass and everything too. But I really love this picture. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So that was Colorado.
Oh wow.
I did a photography trip out there a couple of years ago, and the first morning. So this was October, and the morning we got there, the day we got there, it was cool. It was I mean, at night it was downright chilly, but that night it snowed in the middle of the night, and we got up to find this location. When I got to this spot, I was not happy. I didn't like it. I don't know why. I think because I had passed some spots that really caught my eye,
Uh
but
huh.
I was not running the show, and and I didn't know anything anyway. So um, so we end up at this spot, and everybody gets out, and there I think there were 8 photographers, and everybody found a spot. And in my mind, I didn't get the best spot, but that's just something that I usually it goes through my head that way. But I um, I did set up and started shooting, and when the sun again we got there, it was sort of dark, and when the sun started coming up, it came up like fire,
Oh, I bet.
and it was just I really wasn't even ready. Now, so this was early in my photography,
Okay. Okay.
and even like I shoot manual. Even my settings, I wasn't super comfortable with settings at the time, but it came up and just I mean I've never seen a sunrise like that since, and I have seen some that very first sunrise on the Blue Ridge Parkway was special, but the fact that we had this water and this mountain and the reflections, I've never
I
seen
love it,
that
man. It's
again.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. It is beautiful.
thank you.
Oh yeah. I think it's of those that you sent me. I think you sent me 5 that will show. I think this might be my favorite of the group. Yeah.
Wow.
beautiful. Here's another one I put in here of the trees, and I assume this is in the same location, different time of
It
year.
is.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, and I've come to realize that the things that catch my attention, usually I'm the only one who loves them the way I do.
Uh
And
huh.
this is one of those shots. There's
Yeah.
something about it, and this goes back to that again. I'm just floating through the water. This was back in May of last year, and my photographer friend from Pittsburgh had come down because he wanted to experience the pond. And this was the last morning. We're just out shooting, and you never know what you're going to see. You just keep
Right.
looking,
Right.
and you just keep shooting. But I was looking. I'm always looking for, and when I most of my tree shots, there is a central tree, and in this
Yeah.
case, it was that one. Now, after the fact, I did not even remember this, but when I went back and looked through, I just love the way that all of those the bark on all the other trees, it just forms all these vertical lines, and then that one tree kind of stood out as the anchor of the shot. So
It
that
does. Yeah.
that turned out to be my favorite shot of 2025.
Yeah. It's beautiful. I love the reflection in the water too.
Yeah.
Um,
Now that
yeah.
pond, you know, the reflections are almost. I mean, you're always going to have reflections there.
Right.
So I have begun to take them for granted. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's why I go there, because of the still water and the reflections. But I've gotten to where I forget they're even there, because you know, of course they're there.
Right. 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 We've got this little show coming up at the end of the month with the Fine Art Society of Middle Georgia, where we're doing paintings on a black canvas, and I was just looking at that, and I thought, wow, that would look good on a black canvas because you've got those darks there.
Yeah.
I don't think I could do it justice, to be honest with you, if I attempted to paint something like that. But yeah, me personally, I just don't think I could capture the beauty of this particular photo. So yeah.
I will say one thing when I shoot, because a lot of people go there and shoot. I kind of don't like the sky in most of my cypress pictures. So if you look at them, you won't see much sky.
Much
Occasionally,
sky. Mm-hmm.
and the
Mm-hmm.
reason is because I like, you're asking me, how do I decide what to shoot?
Right. Right.
That's the main thing I want you to see as the person who is looking at this piece. And sometimes the sky, it just adds. I mean, quite often it's very beautiful, but sometimes it adds a distraction.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when I shoot, I try to get close enough, whether I'm zooming in or depending on what the light is like, so that there is no sky. That's just kind of
Yeah.
my
No.
sort of
No.
my style.
Yeah. Understand. Where was this at? Was this out? I'm assuming somewhere out west where it snows a lot. Colorado, maybe.
I had somebody look at this and they said, "Is this Georgia?"
Yeah, I can tell you where it's at. No. Oh wow.
Yeah. So I have, back in January, so a year ago, it was the end of January, I went to the Canadian Rockies for the fourth time. And I have come to love that place so much. I hope I can start going there every winter,
Hmm.
I say every snowy season, because really the next time I go, I think I want it to be in November. Um, but yeah, this is a place. It's called Morant's Curve, and it's designed for people to stop and take pictures of the train. You have a little parking lot. You come across, and there's a viewing platform. And this picture, you can't really see it, but there are three mountains that 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 stand out. So right now you're looking at um, the center mountain, and then the one on the right. And there's one on the left. And if you catch it right, you'll get a train. You may not get a train, but I love the snow up there. So to me, the ideal shot is one that involves snow.
It's beautiful.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
was looking at those trees. There's the and looking at colors. Different colors um, in those trees.
Yeah, and it's funny because you know how the light can change the scene. It can
Hmm.
cast different colors on the scene.
Hmm.
Another picture from that place that I have, it was from a different time. People have said to me, "Wow, that's really neat, the black and white." Well, it's not black and white. It's
No, no,
but
it's
a
not.
snowy scene quite often it takes its own color,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and so and I love that about the snow that it will take a scene and it will just give it a certain hue
right.
or lack of hue, you know.
Yeah, in painting snow, snow's not white. I mean,
Right.
you can have some lavender in there. You can have some blues, blue grays in the snow. I mean, it's just yeah, it's amazing. This is the last one here. I love this one too because of the reflection in the water. I mean, it's just like a mirror, right there, just reflecting back.
That
Beautiful,
is
still water.
that is Emerald Lake. And one of the things I told you that I hope to go next time out there, this is out in the Canadian Rockies. I told you I hope to go in November again because, and this was actually January of last year, but there's a big lake. You can see a piece of a bridge on the left side of the picture. So behind that building and across on the other side of that bridge is a huge lake. But in January, that lake is totally frozen over. But
Is it really? Good
there's this
grief.
one little section that wasn't frozen. So I have another picture that was taken in November from the other side of the bridge, and it's got a beautiful reflection because the lake wasn't yet frozen. So and that's one of the things that you get quite often in the Canadian Rockies when you go to these lakes is you get these still waters and these beautiful reflections. So that was taken. We got out there. I went a day early, and I shot some stuff that early day, and then the next day we started. So once the group got together, we went to this place called Emerald Lake, and for sunset. Of course, you never know what you're going to get, right?
Right,
Sunrise,
right.
sunset, and it came in pink like that, and that was
Yeah,
just so
it's
special.
beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's beautiful. Yeah. I love sunrises and sunsets, and you say pink. People thought pink in the sky. Yeah, there's pink in the sky. You turquoise. Sometimes there's a little green shade in the
yeah,
sky. I mean, yeah, it's just amazing.
yeah.
What's being reflected up into the sky. So yeah, those are awesome. Awesome. I appreciate you. Sending those to me so I could bring them in and we could talk about them, or you could talk about them. And fabulous, fabulous work. And folks, I'm going to include in the notes contact information for Steve so that you can reach out if something caught your eye, or you can go to his website, that kind of thing, and see other work. And hopefully, folks will purchase some of your work or reach out to you and ask you about some of your photographs. It's been great. We've talked here, Steve, almost an hour,
I know
and it's hard to believe
it's
that,
flown by.
wow, 58 minutes, just clicked on 59, so it's amazing. Time flies when you're having fun, you're sitting
It
with
does.
friends and
It
talking
does.
about the things that you enjoy, that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much from you and other photographers and artists in general. And I hope folks are learning a lot too as they watch the podcast and everything, because that's the whole purpose is one, tell people about who Steve Arnold is, what he does, his photography, to also promote you and your work so that people can reach out to you and contact you directly or look at your stuff on social or your website. But also one of the things that I'm trying to focus on this year too is to promote different events that may be coming up. And
Yeah.
you and I are members of Fine Arts Society of Middle Georgia, and we have an event thing coming up later in August. So I'll be putting out something as we get a little further down the road about that and the market and do we call it a fair, sale, exhibition, whatever? So, but
Right.
anyway, art and photography will be for sale, and we're excited about that. But just want to thank you again, Steve, for being on the podcast. It's been a joy, and thanks everybody for watching the podcast. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Become a friend on the Facebook page. Check back because more wonderful interviews are coming soon. And thanks again, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care, everybody. Take care, Steve. Thank you so much.
All right.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. Today's episode is brought to you by Cornerstone Academy of Art and Design, located in Macon at 1305 Hardeman Avenue, Suite 200. If you are interested in taking lessons to become an artist, they offer a variety of classes to help you learn and develop your artistic talent. Check them out on Facebook, Instagram, and the web. Please like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, keep painting, everyone.